The case of Mike Williams. A disappearance that for 17 years was believed to be nothing more than a tragic accident. December 16th, 2000, Florida. Lake Seminole, a place where dog hunting has long been a tradition, almost a ritual. That morning, a 31-year-old man, Mike Williams, arrives at the lake. He is not looking for adventure. He is simply going on a routine hunting trip. This is the last time he's ever seen alive. Who was Mike Williams? Mike Williams was the kind of person people rarely spoke badly about. Calm, even-tempered, a devoted family man. He worked in real estate, made plans for the future, and absolutely adored his little daughter. Hunting was not an extreme hobby for him. It was simply a way to relax. Mike knew Lake Seminole well. He grew up in Florida and clearly understood where caution ends and danger begins. That's why later on, many people would ask, could a man like this really just fall into the water by accident? Family and inner circle. Mike was married to Denise Williams, and together they were raising their 1.5-year-old daughter, Ansley. From the outside, their marriage looked ordinary. A house, a child, shared friends. One of the closest people in their lives was Brian Winchester, Mike's best friend, a man who was trusted without question. The insurance. Several years before Mike's disappearance, a life insurance policy had been taken out in his name. The amount about $1.75 million. The beneficiary was his wife, Denise. At first glance, nothing seemed suspicious. A family, a child, a responsible step. On the surface, it looked like a responsible decision. But the person who actually arranged the policy was Brian Winchester, a man who knew exactly which circumstances of death raise questions and which ones do not, and how to take sure the insurance payout goes through without problems. At the time, no one paid attention to this detail. The day he disappeared. The morning of December 16, 2000 began like any other. Mike left early, just as he had many times before. He planned to be back by lunchtime. When he didn't return, consent didn't arise immediately. The search only began later that evening. The next day, police found his boat. The scene looked strange. The engine appeared to be running. Personal belongings were still there. His gun was in the boat. But Mike was gone. The official theory. Almost immediately, an official explanation appeared. Mike fell into the water and became a victim of alligators. In Florida, that sounded believable. It had happened before. But there were details that didn't add up. It was winter, alligators are less active. Mike was an experienced hunter. There were no signs of struggle, and nobody was ever found. The case is closed. Despite all of this, the search was called off. The case was officially closed as a tragic accident. Alligators too convenient. In the early 2000s Florida, up to 40% of deaths in the water were automatically classified as accidents without a full investigation of the body wasn't found within the first few days. That explains why the case was closed so quickly. But there were too many contradictions, too many things that didn't add up. Why didn't police question it immediately? Why did everyone around them accept this version so easily? And why did the case go quiet despite clear facts that demanded attention? Denise's behavior. Mike's relatives began to notice something strange. Denise quickly accepted the alligator theory, did not insist on continuing the search, raised almost no objections. But one detail was especially alarming. Just 3 weeks after her husband's disappearance, Denise filed a claim to receive the life insurance payout. Over time, she did receive the insurance money. And she starts a new life. To Mike's family, it all feels like cold. But years go by, and there is still no evidence. An unexpected turn. After some time, Brian divorces his wife. A few years later, something happens that shocks everyone who knew Mike. Denise marries Brian Winchester. They begin living in the Williams family home. The best friend of her missing husband, the man who arranged the insurance, the man who had been there the entire time. To Mike's parents, it feels like a betrayal. But once again, there are no legal grounds to challenge anything. 7 years of marriage. Their marriage lasts for about 7 years. Over time, the relationship begins to fall apart, leading to a separation. In 2012, they split up. There were conflicts, arguments, and mutual accusation. In 2015, Denise decided to file for an official divorce. Brian did not take it well. He resorted to radical measures and attempted kidnapping and a gun threat inside Denise's own car. August 2016. In August 2016, Denise goes to the police and reports that her life is in danger. After Brian is located and taken into custody, it is during this period that the shadows from the past begin to surface. From the past. According to Brian, during their arguments, Denise would sometimes threaten to tell the truth about Mike's disappearance, something that deeply unsettled and angered him. The confession. In 2016, Brian Winchester goes to the authorities. He admits that Mike's disappearance was not an accident. It was a premeditated murder. In the first days after Mike vanished, Brian voluntarily took part in the search. He helped look for Mike's body, spoke with the police, and comforted Denise. All while knowing where and how the man he called a friend had actually died. A secret relationship. According to Brian, his relationship with Denise began back in October 1997. They had gone with their families to a concert by the band Sister Hazel, while Mike went to the parking lot to move the car. Brian and Denise grew close for the first time and kissed. Later, that same night back at home, after waiting for everyone to fall asleep, and stayed up talking all night long, the relationship continued to intensify. They began meeting in secret, hiding it from everyone. Sometimes the three of them even traveled together on business trip. Mike suspected nothing. A deadly decision. Eventually, Brian and Denise began discussing how they could be together openly. Denise didn't want to get a divorce, and that's when they began looking for another way out. She didn't want to get a divorce because of her personal principles. And that's when she came to a conclusion. There was only one way to be alone and truly free. What really happened? According to Brian's confession, the murder was planned in advance. They even rehearsed their story. During interrogations, it became clear that Denise and Brian had discussed beforehand exactly what she would say if Mike disappeared. The motives were the insurance money and Brian's relationship with Denise. Mike was shot during the hunting trip. His body was dumped into the water, assuming it would never be found. The alligator story was intentionally invented to ensure that no one would search for the body. Discovery of the remains. In 2017, 70 years later, a fisherman accidentally discovers human remains, a skull and bones near Lake Seminole. Forensic experts confirm they belong to Mike Williams. The story officially stops being a tragic accident. Trial and sentencing. Brian Winchester is sentenced to life in prison. Denise, until the very end, denied her guilt. But she failed to convince the jury. A harsh and undeniable verdict was finally delivered. 49-year-old Denise Williams was found guilty as an accomplice and mastermind behind the crime. She was also sentenced to life in prison for a premeditated murder committed for financial gain. Denise's attorneys tried to convince the court that she had no involvement in Mike's disappearance. But in his testimony, Brian stated that the crime had been planned together with Denise, down to the smallest details. The judge made a point of emphasizing one word in particular: betrayal. The word betrayal appeared in the verdict, a rare term in legal rulings. Interesting facts about Mike's mother. Mike's mother conducted her own investigation. Cheryl Williams kept newspaper clippings and made detailed personal notes. In effect, it was a 17-year-old private investigation. For 9 years, she tried to draw the attention of the governor of Florida in the case, refusing to accept the alligator theory. Long before the confession, she already knew that something was terribly wrong. She kept telling the police, "Money and a woman." but no one listened. In 2021, she made a final statement. The time has come, justice has prevailed. Now my son's soul can finally rest. Final. The story of Mike Williams is not a story about wild nature. It is a story about money, betrayal, and people who knew each other far too well. For 17 years, the truth was hidden behind a perfect legend. But even the most carefully planned crimes eventually rise to the surface.